Coffee time again, exposing the truth. Welcome to Coffee Time Again, exposing the truth. Dale at the microphone, the show that demonstrates how history repeats itself. He digs into the past, shows what happens, and how it is happening now. Follow the path of history to where it goes, then relate it to today to reveal the connections. The culture that forgets its history has no future. A history buff and loves to talk about it, going back as far as ancient Greeks and Egyptians and beyond. So grab your coffee, your chair, and listen to the show. Hope you enjoy.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone you're in. This is Dale Hutchinson. I am the host of Coffee Time Again. And we are here with Phillip Blackett, and we're going to have a good conversation with him this afternoon. Welcome to the show. Enjoy, sit back, grab your coffee. It's what we're all about, is drinking coffee and watching the show. Except I cheated today. I'm having tea. It's a little warm out here, even in Colorado for tea, coffee at this time of the day. So anyway, let's get started. Phillip, introduce yourself to us, please.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me, Dale. My name is Phillip Blackett. I'm an author, consultant, entrepreneur, husband, father, and the list goes on. I've written a few books. One of note is basically helping people be able to talk to people with different viewpoints and perspectives without being disrespectful, which I think might be very timely in the times we live in today. I also wrote a few books with regards to artificial intelligence. That tends to be a growing trend when it comes to business and career and that sort of thing. And always up for great conversations, which is why I'm here with my main man, Dale, right here.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I didn't know. I knew you were into AI, but I was more interested in that because I totally agree with you. You can disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
Believe that 100%. And I make an effort to do it, but I'm not always successful.
That's what makes us human, Dale.
Yeah, because I tend not to lose my temper with people. I just keep calm, and when they start getting tense and intensity, I just shut up and walk away, which really ticks them off, let me tell you. So why'd you like the book? You wrote the book, I assume, so that you can get people to do this. You want to give a copy to everybody in the Congress?
Yeah. So yeah, the point of the book is really just to really help people with regards to, something that a lot of people think is just a political book, but it's actually the exact opposite. It's not just a political, it's a and it deals with, working with people that believe, think, and vote differently from you. And so when you think about what that sounds like any relationship. That may be your family members, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, it might be your significant other, your spouse, your wife or husband. It can be your colleagues, anybody that you have any sort of disagreement about on anything. This is probably a good book for you to read that really help preserve those relationships and friendships. And at the same time, just preserve diversity of thought, which I think is very much needed in our society today.
We need that diversity of thought. We need to bring the country back together again. And what they don't have is this agree and they disagree with being very disagreeable. They fight, they argue, they scream, they yell, they shout. And that accomplishes absolutely nothing in my book.
I agree, mine too.
What are the 5-step framework? What is the 5-step framework that you have for helping people?
Yeah,
Just
so
go with it.
Yeah, so basically, when I think about that, it can apply to anything. Like I said, politics, sports, religion, business, even what you want to have for dinner tonight, Dale. It can apply to that sort of thing too, because I'm sure not everyone wants the same thing you want for tonight.
No.
So, how we navigate that is just a simple 5-step framework I share with everyone. The first step is, Dale, you want to separate the idea or belief from the identity of the believer. And so why that's significant, Dale, is that, a lot of times for certain ideas or beliefs and concepts, we may get so intertwined with what those are that they're one and the same with us. They are part of our identity, meaning that if I happen to disagree with that idea, you now feel like I'm disagreeing with you as a person. If I criticize that idea, you may take it personal and think that I have something against you and I'm hating towards you. And so one of the things that my mom taught me was that, my love for you should not be contingent on whether or not I agree with you, right? Because otherwise, my love for you is going to be on and off like a light switch, depending on the day and the mood and whatever topic we're talking about,
Mhm.
right? And so the second step is, you can disagree with the idea and still love the believer.
Right.
So it's kind of a play off a lesson I learned growing up that you can hate the sin and yet still love the sinner.
Right.
Once again, it gets back to separation, but what's included here is you're actually loving the person, you're respecting the person, right? I
Right.
can separate the two and I can still love and respect you, right?
Right.
And so once you were able to set that ground framework on the setting, now
Mhm.
we can actually get into the actual issue at hand. Step number three. Let's debate the idea based on its merit. And what I mean by that is just like with any solid debate you would see, let's debate on the logic, the data, the results, the performance, the analysis, the persuasion, right? Let's not get into name calling because I have no other grounds to argue on outside of calling you outside of your name,
Yeah.
right? Let's not get into over exaggerated emotional reactions and responses that make it quite awkward for you to respond, making you feel like if I say anything, I'm going to seem like the bad guy here. So I just might as well just not engage.
Right.
Because now I'm so busy looking for Kleenex rather than thinking of my next point to share with that person,
Mhm.
right? So really just focus on the merit. Um, and then number four, something that we probably have learned when we were young playing sports. What happens at the end of the game, win or lose, what did both teams usually do?
I never played sports, so I don't know.
Well, what they
Seriously.
usually do when I used to play basketball and football, Dale, as a young kids, you had to line up with your team at the end of the game and you go towards the other team and you shake their hands and you say, good game.
Yeah.
So it's something similar where whether or not I came to your side, Dale, or you came to mine, or we both stayed separate, hey, we both think that the other person's wrong, or some third alternative that came up out of the ordinary that we weren't even expecting, you
Mhm.
can still shake hands and say, appreciate the debate. Thanks for
Right.
sharing. Like that was one of the things I learned growing up where my mom worked in the courtroom, and so she often saw attorneys on both sides of the issue, arguing very passionately, outspokenly, very aggressively at some points. You almost felt like they didn't like each other. But oftentimes that was quite the opposite once they
Yeah.
actually exited the courtroom. They actually would shake hands. They actually would say, good job or congratulations on winning the case, and you honestly would see them sharing a drink together or
Yeah.
having lunch or being at their daughter's soccer game on the weekend. And you would think now it's like never, like that's like sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah.
Well, back then when we had some common sense and some decency about our relationships with people, you can understand, hey, we had a job to perform. We competed just like if you played sports. Somebody won, somebody lost, and you could still be friends or colleagues with that person afterwards, right? And so
Yeah.
then that gets into the last step, Dale, was that even after you shook hands, you had a debate, you can still respect and love that person, appreciate that person for being involved in that conversation or debate with you,
Yeah.
and keep the door open for future dialogue. So basically, Dale, thanks so much for sharing your perspective on why, your pizza is better than mine. I
Mm.
didn't quite understand why it was so significant to you from when you were growing up on why that certain type of pizza was so helpful and so delicious for you. I'd love to be able to have some time to try it out for myself. Can we like get together maybe for dinners on a Friday night? And I love to try that pizza. And so we
Yeah.
can see for ourselves and continue the conversation.
Right.
It's an example I just came up off the top of my head, Dale, but it's an example of saying, hey, a debate shouldn't be the end all to any sort of further future conversation, let alone a relationship altogether. You
Yeah.
should allow yourself to continue the dialogue later on, which like I said, that's missing because nowadays, if somebody has something against you, you actually want to cancel that relationship altogether and have nothing to do with somebody. And that's what we're trying to reverse.
Yeah, I'm living in independent living facility.
Mm-hmm.
I have like 20 roommates, which is a lot of roommates. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
we each got our own little apartment, our own little studio apartment, but we sit and have debates every meals. The three of us are always sit together, and we always have. And two of us are very calm cook and can do this, and one of us he gets a little testy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna throw this at him next time I have a chance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I like it. I think it's a really good. You made some really good and important points there. You know, to be without being disagreeable, you can disagree with somebody and still be their friend and still love them.
I agree. Like I've been married to my wife for 8 years.
Yeah,
And if my love for her and us staying married was based on whether we agreed on everything, like we wouldn't last past the honeymoon,
yeah.
right?
That's
We
true of
probably
any
wouldn't,
couple, I think.
yeah, we probably wouldn't have gotten married in the first place while
Yeah.
we were dating. So I think for me, something like that is a good example that, okay, for people that have been married, for example, for so long, is it possible that they didn't agree on everything?
Hmm.
Okay, so what kept them together? Like more so is probably they value the relationship between them more than trying to be right every time. And I think that
I think
that's
you're right.
something we ought to have here. With it doesn't even have to involve you being married. It's just like my relationship with you as a friend, as a father, as a child, or whatever the case may be. Like that relationship to me is important for me to keep and to preserve and to grow more so than me trying to be right every single time we have a conversation.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say something, totally spaced it out now. That happens to people my age. That you can love somebody and you can disagree with them, still love them. But the relationship is more important than the debate.
Right.
And whatever it is you're talking about, whether it's politics or sports, the relationship would be more important, is what you're saying, I believe.
Absolutely. I agree.
Hey, the one thing I don't know a lot about, I know a lot about computers, but the one thing I am very confused about is AI.
Yeah.
What the dickens is it?
Well, listen, it's the new technology frontier, they'll say, Dale. It's basically the young generation's internet, we'll say,
All
right?
right.
It's the young generation's telephone or smartphone, right?
Yeah.
It's a new technology that probably is going to revolutionize the way we live and work, right?
Mhm.
Like I remember dial-up internet and this whole
I,
thing about websites and web pages. I remember cell phones that didn't look like a freaking
well,
like
quick.
like like a mini hoagie sandwich to
Yeah.
hold that you had to plug into your car.
Yeah.
It's just to me, it's just this is like this generation's new thing. And I
It's,
think that a lot of people, justifiably so, can feel intimidated or scared because they don't fully understand AI. At the same time, I think it's a great opportunity to learn because you don't need to feel bad about it because there's millions and millions of people that are trying to figure it out as well, me included. That also can be potentially helpful for you to help you become more productive, help simplify, and help add more benefit to the way you live and you work.
is AI dangerous?
You say the question again?
Yeah, is AI dangerous? I mean, I've heard this report from several different people, not people, but on my news feeds that come in to feed that I listen to all the time, read, and they're saying AI is dangerous. It's going to cause this. It's going to cause that. It's going to happen here. Remember the old show with I forget who it was, iRobot.
Mm-hmm. That's
Robots
what I
turn,
was
yeah,
thinking. Well,
yeah.
let me ask you this, Dale, to answer that question. Actually, a few quick questions.
Sure.
Do you think guns are dangerous?
No.
Do you think cars are dangerous?
No.
Do you think butter knives are dangerous?
No.
I agree with you. The reason why is because it depends on who is controlling it.
Gotcha.
So I think AI is something very similar. Okay. A butter knife can be great for cutting butter for your toast for breakfast in the
Mm-hmm.
right person's hands. In the wrong person's hands, it's a weapon.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing is held for AI as well. It's like, hey, in the right person's hands with the right intentions, it could change the world for the benefit of others.
Mm-hmm.
In the wrong person's hands, it could destroy the world the way we know it. So I
Right.
think it really depends on who is involved or in controlling AI, so to speak, and what are the intentions and morality of those people. That's what I'm more concerned about.
Yeah, I can see that point. I can see your point very clearly, as a matter of fact. Depends on the person. Um, is it possible to control AI, or is one entity or one corporation or somebody control AI, or is it going to be just like the internet? It just exploded all over the place at once. Seems like.
Yeah, I think that's the mystique about it, and frankly, could be the scary part, right, Dale? It's like
Mhm.
we don't know because I have no idea how every person on this earth is using AI right now at this present moment,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that from a control standpoint, everyone to a certain degree is getting more and more access to it. And with that said, we have to be concerned about how we personally use it and how we can help others, use AI in the right way. And I'll give you an example. When you and I were in school, obviously in different periods, we probably had papers to write,
Hmm.
right? We often had to research. We had to go to the library. Before internet, there was something called card catalogs and encyclopedias
Don't remind me.
for us to research things, and we had to source our information at the end of the paper. Well, nowadays I fear for teachers because with AI, for example, it almost will seem like you can clearly tell how well somebody can write because you literally wrote it on a piece of paper or you typed it up. Now I think we're going to have a lot of so to speak Shakespeare's all of a sudden in the classroom because
Yeah.
everyone's writing is going to be on such greater level of proficiency, but you're dealing with fifth graders and
Yeah.
you're dealing with high school students. Where is this coming from? Well, you have access to these tools that can make
Yeah.
what you're thinking sound like a Pulitzer Prize winning publication.
Yeah.
And you have to be concerned about making sure that people are still writing papers rather than having AI write it for them. And then
Hmm.
they just put their name on it and just turn it in.
Yeah. Is that plagiarism in a way?
To some degree, yes, because it's not really fully your work. Like it's one thing, like if I get research from an Encyclopedia Britannica when I was growing up,
Uh-huh.
like I don't know what hydrogen gas is, so I have to get the source from somewhere,
Yeah.
but it's not like I copied and pasted verbatim
Hmm.
from the encyclopedia and I had to use my own words. I might have to like summarize it or add different things, add a word, take out a word, but it was more or less something I created
Yeah.
as opposed to if you were to just ask an AI tool of paper for you, um, and you turned it in your class, no accreditation to any sources and that sort, that's where it can be iffy, you know?
Okay. I see what you're saying. I was just wondering about that plagiarism thing because AI is getting the information somewhere.
It is.
And they're getting
At the
information
very least,
from media.
at the very least, I would much rather use an AI tool that actually gets research and like
Mhm.
credits the sources.
Yeah.
So you
I
can at
found,
least be able to say, like, hey, this wasn't my genius. I didn't come out the womb knowing this. I
yeah.
didn't wake up this day today that brilliant. It's like,
No.
no, like I research things. AI might have gotten that paper written for me, in a minute versus like a few hours, but I at least have sources I can actually like consult with and follow up with. And I know my teacher professor can do the same thing too.
Yeah. That proves that you actually did it yourself rather than the computer.
Hmm.
it's very conundrum deal to me, this AI with its incredible potential. You're right. It could definitely change the whole world. The way we perceive things, our worldview. Who knows what it's going to end up doing 20 years, 30 years from now.
Absolutely. Like we're only in like midway the first inning, if I'm going to use a baseball analogy,
Yeah,
of
that's
this whole
about
thing.
right. And that's about right with AI. That's it. It's got an AI companion right here.
Hmm.
Yeah, everywhere you look now, they've got AI. And I haven't been able to get it to work yet. But I'm right now, I've got 2 weeks worth of work. I got a new computer. I got to get it all set up and transfer files and 2 weeks. Plus, I got 5 more podcasts to do this month.
Mm. Well, it's
You're
good
just
to
the
be
first.
busy.
Yes, I'm going to be busy, that's for sure. That's all right. I like it. Better than being retired. Let me tell you something. When you get old enough, don't retire. It's not
I
worth it.
I agree. Find some things you love to do each day, for sure.
5 years to find podcasting, but when I did, it took off big time.
There you go.
Do you think we ought to be using AI in entrepreneurs and small business owners?
Absolutely. It's the same thing with whether individually or at your job, if you have that going for you, or with your own business. I mean, you think about it in a sense like nowadays, as a small business, you can be as productive as businesses twice your size, if not more
Mm,
so. It just depends on what AI tools you put in place. Like a good example I often use with people I work with is imagine a small business that has a marketing team of about 8 people. You have like a content creator, a podcaster, a video editor, an audio editor, a copywriter, a ads buyer or media buyer,
mhm.
a virtual assistant, and a marketing manager. And you probably still have room for other roles and responsibilities there too.
Yeah.
But now you can take that same team of 8 and do just as much work, if not more, with AI tools, a what I would call like a chief marketing human, so to speak, or just a person that knows how to use the AI tools,
Yeah.
and maybe a virtual assistant. So you can cut down your team by more than half, have the productivity still at the same level, if not exceed it.
Well,
And so the thought that goes in my head there is if that's the case, if you can save on time, save on costs, and still be just as productive, if not more so, it would behoove every small business to learn how to include AI in its own operations, whether marketing, finance, sales. You run the gamut when it comes to business. AI
mhm.
can probably enhance what you're already doing if you allow it.
Well, yeah, I'm totally unfamiliar with it still at this point. I'll get better at it. It just takes me a while. With me to learn something new in the computer, I need to use it now. So I better learn how to use it now. But that's
Right.
what's going to happen with AI. When it gets to the point that I have to use it, I will. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing, because some of my podcasts, I like you. I do the video, I record it, I talk to you people, I have great conversations. I love it. But some of them I do just audio. They're recorded, but they're like I got one coming up on unions that I wrote. And I
Yep.
want to use AI to help me find, fix that.
Yeah. I mean, like, take that for example, Dale. Like, if you did a podcast episode on unions, right?
Mhm.
And you say, hey, I like to figure out a script for me to use for a podcast episode on unions. You can go to the AI tool, let them know, hey, I am a podcast host. I'm doing a show on unions. What's like the 10 most important things I should probably talk about with regards to unions?
Oh, okay.
And you can share that with AI and they can tell you, okay, perfect. Here are the 10 things you want to touch on your episode. Or they might even ask you questions. Okay, unions, it sounds kind of broad, Dale. Um, is there something specific you want to focus on? And then you can drill down on what you really want to focus on, and they give much more personalized information that you can use.
Hmm.
Um, it's even to the point now, Dale. I don't want to scare you or anything, but I've also seen people be able to say, "Hey, between two people, they can conduct a podcast interview using AI, and they never even talked.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, with the way AI works. I've heard of it, not just podcasting, but in other scenarios where they don't even talk, but they have a conversation.
Yep, they basically had a conversation. It's recorded. You can upload it.
Yep.
Basically, what happens is that they use an AI tool that can create a script for both people. They also record their voice to show as a sample to AI that basically can replicate their voice. And you tell it, hey, like use this voice for these things on the script and use this other voice for these things on the script. And then next thing you know, in about an hour or so, you got a full-fledged podcast episode, two people talking either strictly off the script or maybe even dynamically. And hardly anybody could tell the difference.
I know that's my main worry. I've been worried about that. Uh, I mean, scams are out there so bad right now, and people, and AI can be used to do it. That's what worries me more than it's what you're talking about. Somebody call me up and say I'm your son, and it sounds just like my son.
Yep. See, once again, it gets back to the question we had. Are cars dangerous?
Yeah,
Not necessarily. It depends on
no,
who's behind the wheel.
right. So I understand. So that's what worries me more than anything is that one little part right there. Maybe that's not a little part, but that's what worries me is that but no matter what we do, they were having scams. This back in the day, they had the uh, scam where they if this for instance, Africa would give you $10 billion. Yeah, that's been in
Yeah,
existence since the days of
yeah. I
Egypt.
almost, I almost fell for that scam in college. I
I
thought that was
missed
real.
no, no, I've missed all the scams except for one, and I see it coming except for the one that got nailed on. Um, the thing is, they that scam's been around, so there's going to be scams no matter what the technology is.
Right. There's
Scams
gonna
are
be
going to
good
be the
apples and
same.
there's gonna be bad apples. Absolutely.
That's right. There's going to be bad apples, so we just got to learn how to grin and bear it and deal with
Right.
it. Learn a way to I've heard the term watermark a product so that you
Mm-hmm.
know it's you and rather than AI. And I don't know anything about that except I've heard the term. You know anything about that? What they mean by watermarking? A podcast?
Yeah. So basically like for example, like if I recorded my voice and I wanted to be able to use my voice to basically narrate anything I give it, a script to,
Yeah.
certain AI tools, like they ask for like your consent, like explicitly. Like, this is
Mhm.
me, my name is Phillip. I do give consent to use my voice to make a recording. And so that's what they're doing on their end to be ethical about the use of AI.
Okay.
The watermark part is basically being able to label it as something authentic to you.
Mhm.
Just like, if you have a photo that somebody else is using, they created it, they may put a watermark on the background so somebody can say, okay, that's that person's photo. And if
Right.
I tried to use it, you'll see that watermark clearly saying it's not my photo, it's that other person's photo. So
Okay.
something along those lines, I would anticipate, especially with the use of audio and video of other
Mhm.
people, I can absolutely foresee that they're doing some sort of watermark in the future to basically authenticate that that person either is exactly that person or that person gave permission or consent for it to be used in that way. So
Okay.
somebody else couldn't use your liking, your likeness, your name, your image,
Yeah.
your audio, your video, and that sort without you giving permission to that.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes it simple for me to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one question kind of it's, normal people who work a 9 to 5 can use artificial intelligence to future-proof their jobs and careers. How would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of similar with the entrepreneur and the small business owner, except now it's basically saying, hey, you have a job, Dale, that you do day to day, your 9 to 5. And how I would say is like, first, you got to think about it as having the right mindset. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of people are afraid of AI. They think that they're going to take their jobs. To some degree, that's not true, and to some degree, it is. And how I would preface that is, the CEO of the company called NVIDIA once said, to paraphrase, it isn't AI that's going to take your job. It's the person that knows AI who's going to take your job. And so what comes out of that is every employee has a choice. You either take the time to learn AI and how it can apply to your job, or you can keep doing things you've been doing before AI came into existence and risk
Mhm.
your job and career for it. Because what I do know, Dale, is that every week when I'm on LinkedIn, I see news of companies across the country and around the globe that are laying off people, hundreds, if not thousands of people,
Yeah.
because they're making investments into AI. And what often happens is those people that either don't know of AI, don't use AI in their jobs, or aren't committed to learning how to do it,
Mhm.
they're more and more at risk now of being laid off. And the way to get ahead of that is to start looking at your job, all the functions you do on a day to day basis. Ask yourself this question: what are things about your job that you absolutely can do better than any machine, or that you absolutely have to do yourself? Okay, those things you need to focus on. Now, the other part of your job that can be delegated to somebody else, maybe it can be done 80% as well or better. If someone else did it, you didn't have to do it. But we're not necessarily looking to outsource that to another person. We're now looking to see how can we include AI to do the job for you.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so a good example would be the sense that, hey, if I happen to work on Dale's podcast show and I'm involved with transcribing his podcast episodes, well, if he has 5 podcast episodes I need to transcribe, that means I'm going to have to listen to each one of them and play, pause, rewind, fast forward each one of those. How long
Yeah.
would it typically take me to transcribe it
A
to
week.
the right? Now, take that same job and find an AI tool that can listen to your podcast episode and at the very least come up with a first draft of your transcript. So
Okay.
you can, so now if nothing else, maybe it can do the whole transcript and I didn't have to do anything. But at the very least, if it came up with a draft of it, that's pretty close to being 100% accurate.
Yeah.
It makes my job much easier and much quicker. So instead of a week it takes me to do the podcast episode to transcribe it, in this example, it might take me maybe an hour.
Okay. So
How,
that increases productivity.
how much time savings is that now that instead of it taking me like a week per podcast episode in this
Yeah.
example, now it takes me an hour. So I can do 5 podcast episodes in about 5 hours. So
Yeah.
all the time it frees me up now to do other things to support, my manager, my boss, my organization,
Yeah.
my own growth in that sort. This becomes a huge time savings tool as
Right.
well as an increase in your productivity, given that you use that extra time to be productive and not catch up on your favorite like soap opera.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I hadn't thought of that, but it would have definitely increased the productivity incredibly by an X number. You know.
Absolutely. And when it comes to, companies have to make these tough decisions on who to keep and who to fire and who to let go or who to hire,
Mm.
productivity is going to be the name of the game now, Dale. It's going
Yeah.
to be more so in a sense like if I hire this person or if I keep this person, how productive he or she is going to be given what's available to him or her. And so when AI tools come into play here, you can definitely press the case of saying, hey, here's what I was able to do pre-AI. And now here's what I'm able to do post AI, given that I'm only going to keep growing with this over time. I'm not going to be complacent and just stay at this level of productivity or education with regards to AI. I'm committed to learning about this so I can become more of a thought leader, more of a person that is an enabler of my team to use AI. So now you're being seen as more of a linchpin to your company that says, oh, there's no way I can let Dale go. Like
Yeah.
Dale is helping everyone on our team. He's so much more productive compared to before. He's teaching me certain tools and certain developments that I didn't know before. He is an absolute asset to our business. We have to keep him. And so that's the type of mentality I will wish on every professional that comes across AI.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying, and I'm gonna have to, well, as soon as I get this computer working, straightened up, then I'm gonna start on AI. I'm gonna have to, there's no, because that can really be, it will increase my productivity, even though I still have to do a lot of the research myself.
Right.
Like on
But
a union, it took me, I think like 3 hours to do all the research on the union terms
mm-hmm.
over a course of
So
time. Not sitting there for 3 hours looking at it, but going through it over the course of time. Now comes the
yep.
question that has me most intrigued.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how did your Christian faith transition you from a liberal to a conservative within the Black community? Because a Black conservative is a rare bird. You got one here
Man,
in the facility.
man, I tell you, I hope we have enough time to go through this in detail, but I'll give you the synopsis, right? I'll give you
Yeah.
the short answer. Listen, when I was growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, um, I grew up among Democrats. That was
Mhm.
just the thing to do. And it was unquestionable to think otherwise. One of the things I credit my mom about was to be able to listen to the other side of the issue, listen to the other side of the spectrum politically, and think for yourself, which was a huge thing. And so I think something happened probably around 2016 after I got out this whole euphoria of being involved in electing the first African American president of the United States
Mhm.
back in 2008 and then re-electing them in 2012. If you ask me what policies I was going for at that time when I was a recent college graduate, probably couldn't tell you,
Yeah,
right? It's just more like I wanted to quote unquote make history.
right.
Well, something happened in 2016. Um, that person was not running. There were two different candidates. And I did something that I didn't think I would do beforehand is I just read the platforms of both political parties that year. And for me as a Christian, I knew certain principles that I stood for and certain
Mhm.
things that were important to me as far as like the way I viewed the world, which was more based on the Bible. And so with that world view, I had a certain lens on looking at what's right and what's wrong. And so when I looked at the platform for Democratic Party, and then I was also fair to look at the platform for the Republican Party, at the end of it, I said to myself, it sounds like I'm more Republican than Democrat, more conservative than liberal. And so I think for me, what it was more so the sense of having a set of principles and a worldview that was more important to me beyond anything else, even if you took party name off of it.
Yeah.
And basically just thinking for yourself to say, okay, which of these choices better aligns me with what I believe in? And for me, it was more so like I'm more of a conservative than a liberal.
You checked out the Constitutional Conservative Party?
Say it again.
Constitutional Party, have you looked at that one?
I have not actually. I have not. Probably had to do some research there and see what
Yeah,
that's about.
I'm a constitutional conservative.
Hmm.
And a Christian. For a lot of the same reasons you're saying, although I've always been conservative.
Hmm.
It was my mother that made me the conservative. My father was incredibly liberal. But I joined the, I don't see a whole lot of difference between when you get down to the two men standing in the Senate arguing, one's a Republican, one's a Democrat, and they're arguing about something, they're saying the same things. They're doing the same things.
Hmm.
They're being corrupt, they're being in the whole bit.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between the two in that at that level. Right on the Senate floor, the House floor, wherever. I don't think there's a lot of difference between Democrat and Republican, which is the reason I became a constitutional convention. And there's a constitutional party in Colorado where I live. So that's the reason I just curious that you hadn't mentioned it. A lot of people
Yeah,
don't know it exists.
yeah. I think, and part of your point, Dale, sounds like when it comes to the Constitutional Conservative Party, it there's certain values, certain platforms, certain principles that are just plain on paper. This is what we stand for.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you take a look at it, you see what they're about, and you ask yourself, do I agree with this? And if you do, you at least have some sort of affiliation or affinity towards these are the type of people I see more eye to eye on versus others. And I think the key takeaway for me from that exercise, and even talk to you about the Constitutional Conservative Party, for example, is we need to expose ourselves to what's out there with
Mhm.
regards to what are people believing, what are platforms, what are parties believing, and don't try to muddy it up to try to be more like the other person because you're just making it confusing for other people to make a decision.
Right,
You
agree.
know, my thing is put it out there, clear as day. What are you for? What are you against? And allow people to make an educated, free thinking decision.
Totally, absolutely, 100% correct. Absolutely free, unfettered. This is my decision. Good. You made a decision. I accept it. Whether I
Right.
agree with it or not, I accept it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a part of being a Christian and also being uh, a good person. Is that you let the person make their own mind up. And then you don't agree with them, maybe, but you don't have to fight with them.
Right.
You just have to say, okay, that's your decision. You're welcome. That's like I tell there's one guy at our mealtime that says, you have the right to be wrong.
I like it.
Mm. So, but I disagree with you. And I tell him that. And we get along. He doesn't get too bad, but he gets a little boisterous at times. And
Yeah, because
he's a conservative too. That's what bothers me.
there can be differences of opinion within the same party. Yeah,
Yeah, we
absolutely.
do. We
Yeah.
have disagreements on a lot of cases between him and I. But we have good conversations, the three of us. One of the, this is an important question to me, and I'm going to skip one here in a minute. What are the three ingredients needed for the Republican Party to attract more Black African American voters in 2024 and beyond? I think that's an important part that they attract
Yeah.
not just Blacks, but Latinos and immigrants and people other than the whole spectrum, because the minorities have been voting Democrat for too many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
three main ingredients.
So I think it's a great question, Dale. I think, one of the books I wrote was Bridging the GOP Gap, how the Republican Party can attract more African American voters through inclusivity and trust without compromising values. Right. So this gets back to what we talked about before, as far as like laying on paper, clear as day, what are you for and what are you against, and allow people to make an educated, free thinking decision. So the first ingredient I would say is dealing with inclusivity. That's oftentimes a word, inclusion, that's more used by one party versus the other. But what I
Mm,
mean by that is basically, you know, I'll just speak for African Americans and more so
okay,
myself, right?
that's all right.
Right. So the thought that comes to my mind is yes, Democratic Party is far more represented in the African American community than Republican Party. So for me, for example, to go the other way, more than likely, we'll probably catch flack for it. Whether
Mm,
it's from family members, from friends, from community members, even just it gets back to having a difference of opinion and just how people engage with you afterwards.
right.
So part of it is being able to feel that sense of inclusion as far as like a community,
Mm,
meaning being around like-minded people that respect you, that appreciate you, and that you're part of a community,
mm,
even if you don't look alike. Because I think to me, when it comes to like true diversity, I think that that's going to be a key ingredient there where it's just like, yeah, all of us may look differently, but we all have a shared set of values or beliefs, or platforms that we are working towards that truly makes it a more melting pot than otherwise. So that goes next to the second ingredient, which I would say is trust. we're taking a gamble, so to speak. I'm taking a gamble leaving from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna catch arrows and name calling and insults in the midst of doing that.
Yeah, it's
And
gonna happen.
part of it is there's a sense of mistrust that many African Americans have with the Republican Party. Now, that might be due to recent history. That might be certain sentiments of what they think Republican Party is like,
Mhm.
namely some people thinking that Republicans are racist. Um, and so I think there's a trust element as far as feeling like, oh, hey, if I'm going to take a gamble here, a leap of faith, and go to the other side, you know, are you guys going to be with me?
Yeah,
Or are you going to hang me out to dry? And I'm basically showing other people, yep, I told you I was right about that party. Yep,
yeah.
they're no good.
The thing is,
So,
too, Republicans are seen as the rich ones and the taxes.
mm-hmm. So a trust factor is definitely trusting is definitely a huge element there as far as an ingredient. And then the last one is basically what are your values, what is your platform, what are your policies? I think that when you're able to share values, whether it's family values, whether it's a reverence for life, whether it's for smaller government, any sort of platform or sticking to the Constitution and not trying to make it an activist document you can just change at your whim, just to fit your narrative or fit your fancy and what you want. Um, a number of different elements. Well, basically, when you're sharing the value, beliefs, platform that you're clear on, and more importantly, I would say those are values, beliefs, and platforms and policies that don't just impact and benefit one group of people, they impact a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a tide rising all boats here. Like the policies that we're talking about here, for example, they're good for Dale and they're good for Philip.
Mhm.
It's not favoring one or versus the other. It's saying that, hey, this policy or this platform is helpful because it helps people. And communicating that in a way that helps people understand, like, hey, this makes common sense.
Yeah.
Advocating for these policies is going to impact Dale's family as well as my family. And it brings us closer together as a shared community. That's why I think when you have that messaging clear, whether it's Black voters, Hispanic voters, fill in the blank voters, having that consistency of the all three, that inclusivity, that trust, and platforms that impact and benefit us all, or more of us versus separately,
Yeah.
that's what I think will make a huge difference.
I think you're right. I think you got a great, great. I am so glad we got into that particular question because we're running down to about 10 minutes here. Uh, and one of these questions looks like you went through some pretty rough time of foreclosure, heartbreak, unemployment. What are the three spiritual words that carries you through those?
Yeah, so I think one of the things you probably can attest to in second, Dale, is that if you live long enough, you'll go through some tough times.
Yeah,
Yep.
totally agree with that one.
Part of living through life is understanding that life is not all rainbow and sunshine,
Nope,
and everything working out your way,
that's
right?
true.
And so I think for me, I've been through my own share of tough times,
Yep.
that really had me in a really dark place, whether it's going through unemployment or having my home foreclosed on or heartbreak, or losing loved ones. I think the thing that really got me through it was just the three words that my wife had prayed over me many times during those tough times. And that was essentially, God will provide. And so it's just you have to have a trust in something beyond yourself, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that are outside of your control. And there's a lot of things that you can't make sense of with your own limited knowledge. That for me, at least, I had to have trust in something greater than myself, which for me is in my own Heavenly Father and my Creator. That one way or another, when I consult His playbook, which is the Bible for me, that all things will work together for my good,
Yep.
because I love God and I'm called according to his purpose. And I may not see it right now, but that's what faith is. It's believing in something, even if you can't see it, trusting that what God said, he'll do it.
I am. I'm a former drug and alcohol counselor for like 24 years. I did that, but I used to tell my clients, faith is walking up to the edge of the cliff and taking the next step, knowing one of two things will happen. One, you'll either be taught to fly or there'll be something to walk on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what faith is. That's meets with what you're saying, I think, pretty closely. Because that is faith.
Absolutely.
Taking that next step and saying, okay, God, you're the man. Let's do it. I love it.
All
I
right.
love it. You are just such a great guest, Philip. I really enjoy you.
Thank you so much, Dale.
And I agree. I know the answer to this, but I want some of my listeners to understand it too. Why is fatherlessness our biggest crisis?
So I'll take it back to the very beginning, Dale.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a world where we didn't have a Heavenly Father?
Oh, no, I can't.
That's part of why this is the biggest issue,
You're
because
right. That's
you're talking about, you know, your own Heavenly Father, and you have a lot of people that are going on throughout their lives without their earthly fathers.
yeah,
You know, we all came from somebody, right?
yeah,
And not having that sense as far as like where we came from, certain values as far as how to live, as far
mhm,
as a young man, as a young woman, um, basically trying to figure things out on your own, which can lead you into being part of the wrong crowds. A lot of what comes out of this is people are looking for direction, and they're often looking for direction from where they're most familiar with, and that's who they came from, their mother and their father. And there are far more mothers trying to step in where fathers have dropped the ball, and it's not fair to them. Like, I
oh,
came from a single mother, and my father was around, he just wasn't present.
yeah,
And I had to pick, piecemeal what it was to be a man, whether it was from my grandfather, who was frankly enjoying retirement. He didn't need to do it. He already was a father of three. He
yeah,
did his job. Now asking him to step in, or other people, other men that came around that I came across in life. But ultimately, I wanted to know from the person I came from, literally. And so I think that a lot of people, a lot of the problems we have, a lot of the social ills, if you want to call it, we have here, I think a lot of it comes from the breakdown of the family.
I,
And the breakdown of the family came about when the father wasn't home.
I
When
totally
certain
have.
things when certain things were done that took the father out of the house and put a huge dependence on the mother to make do with it. I think that's where a lot of the problems we're dealing with now come about, because if you don't have that strong father figure that's given direction, instruction, love, support, showing that model as far as how to love other people, including your mother,
Yeah,
and treat other people, when that's missing, it puts a lot of anarchy and chaos into the picture that a lot of people are still trying to figure themselves out of.
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Philip. I grew up I left home when I was 14. I mean, I left home when I was 14 and moved up to my hometown and had my own apartment, had my own house, literally. Just me at
Mm-hmm.
14. It was party
Mm-hmm.
central at my house. Of course, in high school and stuff, it was pretty wild. I survived it. I survived everything else I went through, and that's due to God.
Right. And so, like I said, it gets back to the first part of my answer. It's like,
Yep.
thank God that he was there,
Amen.
because I can only imagine if he wasn't there, how things would have panned out. And that's why it's important to have more of our earthly fathers in the home, because I can't imagine life at all not being connected to my heavenly father.
No, I can't. I can't imagine my life without without God and Jesus. I just thinking that there's nothing there. Totally void. Well, Philip, I hate to say this, but we are down out of time. And I want to thank you profusely for showing up. You have been an incredible guest. I really enjoyed you. And if, with your permission, in about 6 or 7 months, as soon as I dig your file back up out of the thing, can I invite you back?
Absolutely. I love to come back there. I'd love to have another conversation with you.
Yeah, I would too. I think we can get a lot out there for people to hear.
Absolutely. I agree.
So it'll be about 6 months or so time your file comes back up to the top of the pile.
No problem. God willing, we'll be right there with it.
All right, thank you, Philip, and God bless you, and we'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Dale. God bless you and have a great day.
You betcha. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. There are show notes and a place to comment at https:// coffee time again.libsyn.com/website. He hopes that you liked what you heard and will tell others about him. Dale is attempting to get a following that both disagrees and agrees with him. He does not want yes men. If you disagree, wonderful. He is happy to have you here as a part of the Coffee Time Again team. Dale does not talk about the news of the day. He is attempting to give a history lesson that is just as important about what is going on in the headlines of today. Please do not hesitate to contact him. Just remember that Dale wants a clean show, meaning no cussing, name calling, yelling, or hate allowed. You can disagree with him and not be disagreeable about it. Support him and help keep this alive. https colon / glow.fm / coffee time again.